really learn to lead a team early on within the athletics arena, the same principles apply later on in life. You can have, a company with 50 employees. It's really not much different than leading a baseball or football team back in the day. It's just same concepts, right? You got to learn how to talk to people. You got to learn that each person is individual in the way that they are moved and motivated. Got to speak to them in their language, right? And you just got to find creative ways to keep everybody on their feet. But that was the big, I think, catalyst for my life in many ways to become what I am is the athletics background.
Mhm. I'm a strong proponent of sports. Not only it brings that camaraderie, not only it builds that spirit
Mhm.
of being a sports person and learning early in life that life is not fair,
That's
not
right.
every time things are going to go your way.
Well,
So,
to your point, I think we protect our kids too much from failure at this point,
yeah.
as a society, and the great thing about sport, especially if the parents don't intercede too aggressively, is that they're going to
Mhm.
fail oftentimes more often than they succeed. Especially if you think about baseball, the greatest baseball players in the world hit the ball 3 out of 10 times at bat, right? 3 out of 10 times. So that means 7 times you fail, 3 times you succeed. That makes you a Hall of Famer. I mean, just
Absolutely. And it's like, like you're talking about baseball. I'm a Yankees fan and Don Mattingly, and it's long time back and all that. But still, you see them practicing. And that's the beauty of athletics, that it's a journey,
Mhm.
that glory is short lived. And we work towards that. So it's important to also pay attention and enjoy the journey rather than just be in that moment of destination and find that it's gone.
Yeah, because there's seasons of life, right? They're fleeting. And the older I get, today I'm 47, and you start to see, what those seasons are like. And I've got 4 kids myself. I've got a grandson now. Also, it's like, it's just wild how time does pass by. What's weird though, and I'm sure listeners can relate to this, is you don't feel like your mind is really getting older. I mean, it might get wiser. Your body might feel older, but your mind feels essentially like it did when it was 20 years old. You're just like, I don't understand. I don't understand how's this all happening. And it's just that's the way it was all designed, which is pretty beautiful and fascinating at the same time.
You're absolutely right. Like my dad in his 80s, he learned, I think so he was in 70s or 80s, I don't remember. He learned to use the computers and he always said like, I feel like, I was in college. And
Hmm.
so we definitely feel from inside that eternal youth. It may not show, but it's there. So as you kind of like, grew up, which direction did your career take?
Well, it's funny, when I graduated college, I was working in the DC area. Didn't like my job. Came back home to what is a rural part of Virginia called the Northern Neck of Virginia, and my 2 buddies had just started a swimming pool company called River Pools, and they asked me to run the retail store. They had a little retail store while they were installing pools out in the field. And so I said, okay, until I figure out what I'm going to do with my life, I'll go ahead and do that. And what was interesting is within a couple of months, they said, "Would you want to become a business partner?" And I never dreamt growing up that I would be a pool guy growing up, but that's exactly what I became in my 20s. And by the time 2000, that was 2001, 2008, we were fighting to grow the business. 2008 comes around, the market collapses, and
Hmm.
we have pretty big crash. And a lot of people remember this that were in business at the time,
Oh, yeah.
and it looked like we were going to file bankruptcy. But the good thing about pain and suffering is it forces us outside of our comfort zones, right? And then we have essentially, it's that YOLO mindset of you've got nothing to lose, and you only live once, so might as well just send it. And that's when I started to really learn about today's buyer and things like the internet and marketing and just looking at the world differently. And as I learned all these new fancy phrases like inbound marketing, content marketing, social media, stuff like that. What I heard in my simple pool guy mind was, Marcus, if you just obsess of your customers' questions, worries, fears, issues, concerns, and you're willing to address those online on your website, you might save your business. So I said to my two business partners at the time, I said, we're going to become the best teachers in the world when it comes to, in our case, fiberglass swimming pools. And so that's exactly what we did through text and video. Every single day I was addressing through articles and videos on our website and online the questions that I was getting. And to make a long story short, we became the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world within the next 2 years. And it exploded so much that I started to write about what we were doing. And as I wrote about what we were doing online, I started getting companies say, "Hey, can you teach me how to do that?" And then folks said, can you speak about that at our conference?" And it led to this crazy, crazy life as full-time speaker. I have an agency now today, but I still have the pool company. And it's amazing how I never dreamt of being a pool guy, but being a pool guy was the catalyst to have all these other wonderful components of my life today. I'll go to, I'll be speaking in Europe or something like that. Somebody will come up to me and they're like, "You're that pool guy, right? That I read about online." I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly right." What's funny though about that, Divya, is just kind of like a powerful thing, I think, in terms of identity. When I started as a pool guy and I was in my early 20s, I had a family member at some family event come up to me and they said, "Hey, Marcus, I heard you're going to be a pool guy." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, that's what it looks like." And she said, "Wow, what a waste." And I thought,
Mm.
"Oh,
Huh.
geez, really? Is that what this is about?" And I learned how people put a value on positions and titles. And what's really fascinating is some of my most successful and most fulfilled friends and acquaintances today might not have a title that is is really like revered in society, but yet they've got all the things. They check every box in terms of, maybe it's a very successful business and, financial peace and wellness. They've got their health, but yet they might, own some septic tank company, yet they're just doing incredibly, incredibly well. That's why I'm pretty passionate about the trades today is because the perception out there is oftentimes it's off track, for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, and actually, trades is going to be the
It's gonna be
fallback
huge.
for people now,
That's
like
right.
especially with artificial intelligence.
Oh, they're
So
gonna see
many
a
jobs.
renaissance. No question. No question. It's gonna see, you know, for isn't it wild that 4 years ago, the number one, like, most safe in-demand job in the world was software engineer. And today, if you listen to any of the AI experts, they're saying that, you're not going to, for the most part, need the majority of software engineers in the future because of the fact that, because of things like no code and because of AI and the fact that most code is going to be written by AI. Over 35% of all code right now is written by AI. That number is only going to grow. So things change very, very quickly. My son is an electrician. He's 21 years old and he did not go to college, but he's obsessed with learning. That's all I really care about, right? Mark Twain once said, "Never let your schooling get in the way of your education." And I think education comes in a multiplicity of forms. There's certainly not one road for everybody, but he's 21. He's got no debt. He's making about six figures a year right now, and he's off to the races. And how is that not a beautiful thing? And he's going to be quite secure in his job for a long, long time and very much in demand. I taught him, I was like, the world can say what the world says, but you need to follow where you feel like you can become the best version of yourself, whatever that is. And, he found a lot of joy with building things as a kid. That wasn't my thing, but that was his thing. And I didn't try to make his thing my thing or my thing his thing. And he started working as an electrician part-time at 14 years old and full-time by 16. And that's where he is today. He runs a crew, 21 years old.
Well, that's amazing because as you were talking about, 35% of the code being written by AI. And also there are companies like Shopify. Shopify CEO said that you want, I think so, Toby, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but his internal memo was leaked out on
Yeah, he
X.
says you're required.
Yeah, that, before you ask for more headcount, and these were his
Yep.
approximately the similar words,
Yep.
that before you ask for more headcount, the teams must demonstrate why AI cannot do the work that they're asking for. Then I think so warmly said that I expect 30% growth in every employee using AI. So it's
That's
here.
leadership, right? That's leadership. And that's, there's a lot of leaders right now, when they look at AI, they're burying their head in the sand and they're saying, well, I don't like it. Or, what about this? What about that? And I think they've forgotten why they signed up to be in business. Because you signed up, when you become an entrepreneur, you're essentially saying, I'm going to meet the market where the market is. I'm not going to say, well, that's not my thing. And so I'm not going to do it. It's no different than like a really simple example. And I talk a lot about like video on some of my content online and my books. Nobody has ever gone to a website before and said, boy, I really wish I could watch a video about this, but there's none here. But I'm sure that the owner of this company is just nervous on camera, so I'm going to give them a pass. I'll call them on the phone instead. It's just not how it works. They want to see the thing. The buyer cares about the buyer. The market cares about the market. And they certainly don't care about our opinions. So I learned a long time ago as a business owner to not allow my personal opinions to screw up really smart business decisions. I don't personally like Facebook and Instagram personally. Do I use them for my businesses? Yes. Do I teach other businesses how to do them? Yes. Why? Because that's where the market is, or at least some of the market, or LinkedIn, or YouTube, or whatever the thing is, right? And so we have to be very, very careful about that. But I'm sure you've seen this yourself as well, Divya. It's like you constantly see these folks saying, well, that's just not really my thing. Oh, your thing needs to be meeting the market where the market is. That's business 101.
Well, you're absolutely right on the mark. Most people are like, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not doing it. And here's the thing, market is not going to wait for you.
Nope.
As we were talking about AI 2.5 years back, I'm an early adopter for most of the things. And I jumped into it. So now I'm not terrified of it. I mean, did I go through resistance and fear and all that? We all do. So now you talked about Facebook and Instagram and people being afraid. So we can talk about businesses, but businesses are run by people. So you talk about that there are some crucial signals for businesses. Can you share what are those and how can companies create those?
Yeah. So if you look at what's happening today, it's really interesting for the better part of the last 25 years as organizations. The way we generated business, we had to essentially be recommended by two parties. Number one, we had to be recommended by customers, by people. Number two, we had to be recommended by search engines. And that manifested itself through either SEO or through paid ads. That's been the last 25 plus years, right? And you could build a wonderful business on that. But suddenly, as most listening to this know, November 2022, we see ChatGPT, everything starts to change. And I know you saw this quickly, Divya, but I saw it as well, which was, okay, so you're going to give me a great answer to my question, and I don't have to click on a blue link to get that answer. And if you think about what's happening today, so many companies and organizations right now are saying, I'm spending more on Google Ads than I've ever spent. I'm getting less results. I'm seeing less traffic to my website from, let's say, SEO than I saw before. And I'm concerned. I'm worried. Well, that trend line is going to continue because you're going to see more people that are shifting over from using Google as their traditional means of researching companies and reaching out to businesses to going to AI. Why? Because if you go to AI today, if you're using ChatGPT, they're not going to show you sponsored searches. You don't see a single sponsored search. So there's literally, it's a straight line to the answer that you're looking for. And what do we want as buyers, consumers? We want to get the best, most specific, relevant answer to our question as quickly as possible. Whereas Google is going to show you a bunch of stuff and also some search results. And so this is why you're seeing so many people shift over. And so if you build your house on Google today, there's a very good chance that you're going to be in trouble tomorrow. And I wrote They Ask You Answer, a book that is all about how to dominate on Google. And I'm the guy that's like saying, one of the people that's saying, hey, this is not your future. And so if that's the case, and you need to be recommended now by AI, because, when AI started for you and I, it's like a couple years ago, it was mainly a creation tool, but now it's a very much a recommendation tool as well. We're
Mhm.
vetting companies and businesses and whatever brands by using AI. And so What makes AI say, hey, you should talk to this company? Well, they're trust signals that are essentially sent out by two parties, either by your company or by people that they're discussing your company. So you have to create trust signals. What's a trust signal? Any piece of content that's out there about your organization is a trust signal. So if it's videos, if it's articles, if it's social media, if it's reviews by other people, right? If it's statements about you, whatever that thing is, that is a trust signal. And there's certain ways that you can drive more trust. There's certain types of signals that search engines love, AI loves, and unfortunately, most businesses don't want to talk about. And so, in my newest book, Endless Customers, I lean hard into these signals and how can you become the most known and trusted brand in your market? Because the one thing I'm sure of is that Facebook is going to come and go, Instagram's going to come and go, YouTube's going to come and go, Google's going to come and go, ChatGPT is going to come and go. They're all platforms. What's not going to come and go is the importance of trust and its impact on your business. And if you always build your strategy around how you can become that most trusted brand, well, then there's a very good chance you're going to be built to last, regardless of whether it's 5 years or 10 years or 20 years down the road. And so if you're not doing things today that make you that trusted voice with humans, with AI, with search engines, well, then there's a very good chance that you're being left behind.
Yeah, no, that's a very good advice because, as you said, a lot of people are being an ostrich because ostrich is known to bury its head in the.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about that. I talk a lot about the ostrich and how we're afraid to address certain things. And in the book, I mentioned four pillars of a known and trusted brand, and they're essentially the antithesis of the ostrich, right? So the ostrich, when it has a problem, it buries its head in the sand because it thinks the problem's going to go away. Which, by the way, it's a total myth, but it's visually very, very effective, right? Because
Of course.
oftentimes I'll say to companies, "Are you being the ostrich right now, or are we going to do what it takes to become that voice of trust?" Like we have to make a choice right now. And so,
Absolutely.
wha- one of the pillars, one of the core pillars of a known and trusted brand is saying online what others aren't willing to say in your space. Say what others aren't willing to say. And if you think about that one, somebody might say, "Well, what do you mean by like say?" Okay. And this is also the second pillar too, very much related to it, which is show what others aren't willing to show with video. But there's essentially when it comes to the way people buy stuff, the way we research, there's five subjects in particular that we always tend to research when we're looking to make a buying decision. This is B2B, B2C, this is small business, this is enterprise. It doesn't really matter. So what are the five things that we always research as buyers, as consumers? Number one, we want to understand cost. We just really want to feel like very clearly we understand pricing and that we're not going to get ripped off. So cost is number one. Number two, we want to understand problems slash objections. We want to know what could go wrong. How could this blow up in my face? Right. So it's essentially fears. Number three, comparisons. We love to compare stuff online. I mean, think about how many times you compared one thing versus another thing online. We love to do that. Number four, reviews. We're like obsessed with reviews. The thing about reviews, Divya, is we just don't want the good reviews. We want the good, the bad, and the ugly. If somebody doesn't have any one-star reviews or negative reviews, it actually makes us a little bit worried, like something's wrong here. And then finally, number five, best, most, top. Like, how many times have you searched best plus another phrase online? I mean, it happens all the time. So, cost, problems, comparisons, reviews, and best. Here's what's crazy: those subjects run the economy of search. Those are the subjects that are dictating whether you get leads or not. Those are the things that people are searching in Google, the things that they're searching in AI. And those are the things that most businesses don't want to talk about online. And if you want to become the voice of trust in your market, you have to be willing to talk about those five things. And obviously, in the book, I teach you how to talk about those five things. And everybody, of course, wants to say, there's no way I could talk about that. I can't talk about cost, Marcus, because every job is different and it depends. And we tend to be more expensive and we're going to scare them away. I mean, there's all these things that people say. I'm telling you, we've got the data on this. And you do not want to ignore the most fundamental questions that people have when it comes to your product or service, one of which is roughly, what's this going to cost me?
Hmm. Yeah, that's such a powerful question. And you also talked recently just now about, like, showing your audience what others are not willing to show with videos. And there's, YouTube shorts, there are like long videos, like it keeps on changing. So what would your advice be to the companies or to entrepreneurs?
Yeah, this is one of those things. Video is such a massive, massive deal. I'll say something here that I think will scare people to death, but I feel like it's my responsibility to be honest always. And that is, there's a pretty solid chance within the next 5 to 10 years that your YouTube page is much more important than your web page, your website. And a lot of companies can't even fathom that right now. But if you look at where the world is headed, it's very much headed in a video centric direction. I actually believe the rise of ChatGPT and some of these other AI based search engines are going to lead to also a rise in YouTube. YouTube could be Google's number one revenue generator within, a few years, just based on where the market is headed. And so if that's the case, are you really putting emphasis on video? Because this is what people want to see it to believe it, and they want to feel like they have fully vetted it. More and more people are visual learners. This is just where our brain is going. And it's one of those things where you have to start thinking as an organization like a media company. And that's one of those statements folks are like, really? I didn't sign up for this. I know. I know you didn't sign up to become a media company, but that's where the world is now headed. And you need to go with them. Or again, you're going to be left behind, right? You can't
Hmm.
expect to be sending, faxes from your fax machine to your customer base and get the reach that the person that's sending email is going to have. It just doesn't work like that. And so we're going to have to evolve, and video is a place to do it. Most companies at this point that are doing at least a couple $1 million in sales should have a full-time videographer that works on staff. I mean, that's the way that you should be thinking. Now, some of you are, like, well, Marcus, I'm much smaller than that. Okay, well, now you're the videographer. But yeah, you have to be doing video because people buy from those they know, like, and trust. They want to see your face. It makes you much, much more human. And that's where we're going. And there's a difference, a very big difference between just stating something in text online versus showing it, improving it in video. They're just night and day difference. That's what makes you much, much more believable and certainly more transparent as well. And that's what causes people to say, I trust you enough to buy from you.
Mm, that definitely makes sense because, all right, let's say you, even whether you're a CEO or a small entrepreneur, your product could be the best. But as you talk about, like, being willing to be more human than others, especially in the world of AI, like, so many people are putting in avatar videos, even ads created by AI.
Yeah.
So, in that, showing a little piece of, who are you as a human being? Why would they like you? And a lot of people are hesitant about putting in those kind of videos. So do you think, like, in terms of products also, like you said, like, showing that proof, that explainer videos work really well?
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, anything that you can do. Listen, if you're a CEO, if you're a business leader right now, you got to get from behind the desk and from behind the camera. You got in front of the camera, because one thing that isn't going to change, that is clearly a principle of truth at this point, is people buy from those they know, like, and trust. And it's like, look at this, like, pod that you're doing, Divya. It's like a lot of people do business with you because they heard about you here. They develop a relationship with you on here. They like your energy. They like your vibe. And they're like, I want to work with her. If this was, if you didn't do any video, or if people couldn't hear your voice and they were just reading your words, the relationship would be different. So you have a very human element about you with your brand that resonates with the market, and because of that, the market has responded and allows you to have a successful business. Right? This is all of us, and so if you as a business leader aren't thinking of ways to show your face more. And by the way, this doesn't mean that you're posting photos of your family. You don't have to do that. I mean, one of the biggest advocates of social media in the world is Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know what his kids look like. I don't know anything about his family because he doesn't show his family, but he shows himself a lot, and that benefits his brands, right? And so the moral of the story is, you have to, once again, there's common theme here. We got to get over some of our personal opinions. We've got to put ourselves out there. Another simple example of this, I talk about this in Endless Customers, is like, listen, one-to-one video with email is so simple, so easy. It costs literally nothing, and most salespeople are sending just text-based email today. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like if I've got an appointment, and if you talk to any of my sales team and they have an appointment, a sales appointment with you beforehand, they're going to send you a video. They're going to introduce themselves. You're going to see their face. You're going to hear their voice. You're going to get to know them on a personal level before you ever talk to them on the phone, before you ever see them on camera, before they ever walk up your driveway to, sell in your home or whatever that thing is. That's the way to do it. Yet most companies aren't thinking like this. I mean, it's amazing to me how backwards we are in terms of humanizing the sales process. And listen, I'm all about using technology, but you can use technology and humanize your business, your brand, your people even more so. But you got to get in front of the camera. It's not going to happen otherwise. And you don't want to be using just a dang digital avatar, which I mean, I'm cool with that. I'm cool. I've written about them. I wrote about them in
Yeah,
the book,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you need to be showing your face out there as well.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Now, there are a lot of questions, a lot of my clients will ask me. I'm not in this a video person or anything like that. So the question I get from several of my clients is that, like, oh, people say that, you got to be personal, but you gave a very good example of Gary Vee. So sometimes, they say like, oh, I could just be walking down the street and taking a video and I'm putting it on LinkedIn. Like, is that unprofessional? So if you can answer that question, that would be great, because when you're showing your personal side, don't have to show your family, don't have to show you're going for mani pedi or you're going for like this best barber or haircut, but showing some of your personal element. What are your thoughts on that?
It's very fascinating to me whenever I post um something, how just like what people notice. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm a pretty good follow on LinkedIn. I'm very active over there, 4 to 5 posts a week. I put my best stuff on LinkedIn. I do a mix of photo plus video plus text. I mean, I do a full mix.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't hesitate to just do a video spur of the moment if I'm just outside and I've got a thought. I share it with my audience. You have to. The thing about you got to understand about all this stuff. It's kind of like learning to walk. You don't get it the first time. It's clunky, and you have to embrace the messy that comes with it. A lot of people just don't want to embrace the messy that comes with developing a brand voice. You want a personal brand and you want a company brand. But I can tell you, personal brands are much stronger than company brands. If I said to this audience right now, do you know who Kylie Jenner is? Everybody would say, yes, I know who Kylie Jenner is. I've heard of her. If I said, do you know the name of her makeup line? Many people would say, I have no
Right.
idea. It's $1 billion makeup line,
Mm.
and they don't know. And I say that because I don't even know what it is, but I know Kylie Jenner. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Now, somebody might
Mhm.
say, well, that's Kylie. No, 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 no. That is the psychology of the way that it works. You can go down the list of companies. Richard Branson is much more known than his brands. And this is possible. It's like Steve Jobs was bigger as a like a from a social perspective than was Apple at the time. People wanted to know, what does Steve Jobs say? Not what does Apple say? What does Steve Jobs say? And so we're entering an era where thought leadership, individual thought leadership matters a lot. And this is especially true with like leaders of companies. And again, I know a lot of folks that I just didn't sign up for that. Well, meet the market where the market is, and you've got something to say. Learn how to say it in your own way. Maybe it's driving down maybe you're shooting a video in the car as you're driving, whatever the video, maybe you're in your bedroom, or maybe you're in your office, or whatever it is. But there's a style that would work for you. You just have to be willing to get from point A to point B, and in between there's this bridge of clunkiness that you're going to figure out. You're going to figure it out. It's no different than if you look at the content that I wrote on my swimming pool site in 2009, the first articles, let's say, that I produced, you'd have said, Divya, like, dude, Marcus, you're just not a very good writer. This is probably not your thing. And then if somebody reads my books today, they might say, wow, you've got a nice style about the way that you write, or, oh, you seem like such a natural writer. Yeah, we're a couple million words into it by this point, y'all. This is like, if you watch my early videos, I'm sure it's the same with you, Divya. It's like, if you watch my earlier vids, you're like, man, video is probably not your thing. And today people are like, wow, you're really, really great on video. I bet it just comes natural for you. It's like, you forget this, like, it's learning to walk and then learning to run. You fall a bunch of times, you figure it out, and then all of a sudden, one day you realize, holy cow, I'm actually pretty decent at this thing. That's how it works.
Yeah, and I really love what you said, embrace the messy. Because I'll tell you, like, I've got some of my books, I've written several books, my earlier books, not proud of it. But have I taken them
Right.
down? No, I've not taken them down because it shows the journey that, and of course, this is all pre chat GPT, so I can
Sure.
claim. So I love what you said. It's about falling. And the way I see it is, we are all work in progress. So what even if we mess it up now? We mess
That's
it
right.
up, we mess it up. So
Well,
that's
and we
beautiful.
we we drastically overestimate how much people think about us. You know what
People
I'm
are
saying?
thinking about themselves and not thinking about you. I can tell you for
That's
for
right. That's right. And I tell you, it is powerful though, Divya. It's like the moment you just let go of the need to please 100% of your audience and say, listen, I'm not for everybody, but my tribe, they're going to find me. Just like as I've been doing this pod today, there's literally been a certain percentage of people that are like, I really love this guy. And then there's a certain percentage that are like, don't like him. I'm out. I know that like literally that has happened over the course of this episode. Some people start off, they didn't like me, and now they like me. All of which I am completely okay with. See, just saying that makes some people say, "Oh, that almost feels uncomfortable." No, it's totally comfortable to me because I have accepted this is how we work as humans. And I'm constantly putting myself in front of audiences, knowing that a certain percentage isn't going to like me or I'm not going to resonate with them. I'm okay with that because I also know that there's another percentage that I'm going to change their life. And that's what I'm here for.
Absolutely. And that's what makes a brand trustworthy. And that's what makes the brand authentic.
That's
Because
right.
a lot of people talk about authenticity. So tell us, you have given us some very valuable nuggets. So thank you, Marcus. Tell us how people can connect with you and how can they reach you. Tell us about your books.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you asking that, Divya. So a couple of things. If I would start with Endless Customers, which is the new book. That's if you want to become the most known and trusted brand in your market, wherever your market is, whatever it is, that book was written for you. I think it's going to really resonate with you. I think you're going to love it. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm a really good follow over there. And I've got a company called Impact, and you can find us at impactplus.com. We help organizations implement this system of endless customers. And so if you're looking for a coach to guide you on that journey, you can go to impactplus.com. And we've got a bunch of free content there as well. In fact, there is for the book, there's a 5-hour course that I created on endless customers. It's a video course. It's free. And you can find it over there at impactplus.com, which is pretty cool. If you just want to watch me, give the whole book, not read it, but like just riff on it for 5 hours in different sections, different chapters. I hope you'll check it out because it took a little bit of time, but it's helpful to people very much.
I'm sure our audience is going to find a lot of value in what you're sharing. And just based on the nuggets you have given us, I'm sure that y'all will enjoy Marcus's book. So check it out and see how it can help you because we are all selling something, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. So thank you, Marcus, for joining us.
Divya, it's
And
my pleasure, and appreciate your audience, and love your subject matter. And so hopefully this was a positive for those that were listening today.
I'm sure it was. So thank you, Marcus. Thank you, wonderful audience, because the show would not be possible without you. So reach out to us, let us know. what experts you're looking for, what strategies you're looking for. We are here to serve and support you and help you live the life you want and you deserve. And thank you, Juan, for making the show technically possible. Be well, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.